affected by the campfire that has devastated our beloved Paradise and Amelia communities, as well as others.
Every single day, I bring you another story straight from Hollywood's golden age, the moments that built legends and broke hearts. If you love keeping these memories alive, hit that subscribe button. It's totally free, but it means the world. Everyone remembers Gary Burghoff as the gentle soul of MASH, the quiet clerk with that teddy bear in his hand and a smile that melted hearts across America. But behind the scenes, that same sweetness turned into something a lot darker. Some of his castmates didn't just dislike him, they straight up couldn't stand him. Some even swore they'd never share a set with him again. And here's the kicker. These weren't random co-workers. These were his on-screen family, the same people who once hugged him between takes. When the truth came out, fans were stunned that such massive Hollywood names carried that much resentment. Wayne Rogers was the first to completely lose it with Gary Burghoff. Back then, Wayne was the big name, the guy who carried the early MASH years with his calm, confident charm. But when it came to Gary, something snapped. Their tension was legendary, the kind that made the whole cast hold their breath, because Wayne was not the kind of man who blew up easily. It all went down at Stage 9 over at 20th Century Fox. During early table reads, the cast would gather, laughing, vibing, finding their groove. Wayne always nailed his lines, smooth and effortless like a pro. But Gary? He was jumpy, overthinking every scene, stressing over how his character came across. The more anxious he got, the more everyone around him could feel that tension building, until it finally exploded. At first, Wayne really tried to help Gary out, almost like an older brother showing the ropes. But it didn't take long before Gary's constant nerves started clashing hard with Wayne's calm, no-drama style. The real storm hit when the producers at Fox realized something big. Audiences loved Radar. Test screenings showed he was connecting way more than anyone expected. And suddenly, Gary's name was getting brought up in every single ratings meeting. Wayne, who'd signed on thinking Trapper John was supposed to be the co-lead, started noticing something off. Those key swamp scenes, yeah, the ones that gave Trapper his depth, were slowly being rewritten to shine more light on Radar. Crew members remembered Wayne muttering under his breath, "Radar again," every time a new script came in, not because he hated the character, but because Gary didn't know how to handle the fame that came with it. Instead of enjoying the success, Gary got defensive, asking things like, "Why am I not in this scene?" Or, "Why did they cut my line?" over and over again. Wayne had zero patience for that. To him, that kind of insecurity was poison on set. By the time Season 2 kicked off at Malibu Creek State Park, the tension was thick. The heat was rough, the hours were endless, and everyone was worn out. That's when Gary's moods became unpredictable. One moment fine, the next suddenly snapping. During one mess tent shoot, he straight up walked off mid-scene, furious that Radar wouldn't react this way. The crew froze in shock. It was clear things between Gary and Wayne had reached a breaking point. Wayne just stared at Gary in total disbelief. That was the moment everything changed. His irritation turned into something way deeper. It wasn't just frustration anymore, it was personal. From that point on, every time Gary jumped in to correct him or insisted that Radar should control the emotional rhythm of a scene, Wayne's patience cracked a little more. You could almost see the tension building in his jaw. Tight, silent, dangerous, and then, boom, it happened. The calmest guy on set suddenly snapped. Wayne grabbed a metal folding chair and hurled it straight at Gary. The whole room went dead silent. Nobody moved, not even the director. A boom mic operator later said, "I'd never seen Wayne look like that. It scared all of us." And Wayne didn't even try to deny it later on. He came clean years after, saying, "I lost it. Working with Gary felt like standing next to a fuse you didn't realize was burning." After that explosive day, their working relationship was done for good. Sure, they still had to shoot scenes together, but everyone could feel that icy silence between them. Off camera, Wayne wouldn't even look his way. That tension became one of the biggest reasons Wayne refused to renew his MASH contract. He just couldn't take it anymore. And the saddest part? They never made peace. No interviews, no reunions. Not even a quiet handshake years later. Two men who spent years pretending to be best friends on screen carried that bitterness for the rest of their lives. Then came McLean Stevenson, the man who couldn't stand Gary from the start. McLean didn't bother pretending otherwise. From the moment he and Gary started working together inside the Colonel Henry Blake office set on Stage 9 at 20th Century Fox, he sensed trouble brewing. Gary was the one person on set that McLean Stevenson just couldn't relax around. And once that tension took hold, everything spiraled fast. From the very first table reads, it was clear they were total opposites. McClane was naturally playful, always cracking jokes, tossing in little one-liners to make the crew laugh, but Gary hated that energy. One morning, while reading a simple back and forth between Henry Blake and Radar, McClane tossed in a tiny ad-lib. Nothing major, just a little extra line to keep the scene loose. But Gary froze. He glared across the table and later pulled a writer aside to complain that McClane was changing the energy of Radar. When word got back to McClane, his reaction said it all. Oh boy, we're going to have a problem. From then on, their working styles clashed like fire and ice. McClane liked to keep things fun and spontaneous, while Gary stayed stiff, sensitive, and overly protective of his character. During outdoor shoots at Malibu Creek, when the heat soared past 100 degrees, Gary would shut down if he felt overwhelmed. McClane saw it as attitude, while Gary thought McClane's jokes were straight-up mockery. The miscommunication just kept growing like mold in a closed tent. Things finally hit a breaking point during a mess tent shoot. They were filming an emotional moment, Henry comforting Radar after a rough day. McClane played it beautifully, adding a soft joke at the end to lighten the mood. The crew smiled, thinking it was a sweet touch, but Gary, he wasn't having it. As soon as the director yelled, "Cut!" Gary marched up between the canvas walls and snapped, "You're making Radar the fool!" That line hit McClane hard. He was stunned, then furious. From that day on, he kept his distance from Gary for good. Later, McClane privately admitted to the script supervisor that he'd given up trying to connect with him at all. "He thinks I'm attacking him. I'm not. But he makes me the villain without even trying." That one line from McClane said it all. He felt trapped in a mess he couldn't escape, constantly misunderstood and frustrated that every good intention turned into more drama. By season 3, the chill between them was impossible to miss. The friendship was gone, replaced by awkward silences and short tempers. When McClane announced he was leaving MASH, the public believed it was for bigger career opportunities. But behind the scenes, insiders whispered a different story. Part of McClane just wanted peace. He needed to escape the emotional storm that came with working beside Gary. And sadly, they never made things right. No reunion show handshake. No quiet phone call years later. Nothing. When McClane passed away in 1996, their strained relationship stayed frozen in time, unresolved, heavy, and buried under years of tension neither man ever knew how to fix. And then came the unthinkable, Alan Alda himself finally snapping at Gary Burghoff, the leader of MASH, the man known for keeping everyone grounded, hit his breaking point long before fans noticed anything was off. It all went down on Stage 9 at 20th Century Fox, during what should have been a simple rehearsal. Alan looked at Gary with this stunned expression, one that told everyone something inside him had finally snapped. The crew went silent. They'd never seen Alda lose his cool like that. The first spark of trouble started during a rewrite session for a Hawkeye Radar storyline. Alan was co-writing, totally focused, when Gary read his lines, frowned, and shoved the script away like it personally insulted him. In front of the writers, producers, and assistants, he said, "Radar deserves better than this." And then came the sentence that cut deeper than he probably realized, one that would change everything between them. "You only write Hawkeye as the hero." That line hit like a slap across the room. It wasn't just feedback. It was a full-on accusation aimed straight at the man holding the entire show together. Everyone froze. Alan Alda didn't say a word, but the air around them shifted instantly, like something fragile had just cracked. From that day on, things between them were never the same. The real showdown came weeks later on the swamp tent set at Malibu Creek. The director was blocking a simple emotional moment, Hawkeye comforting Radar after some bad news. Easy scene, right? But Gary refused the direction, insisting that Radar should show more authority. Alan, ever the peacemaker, tried to step in gently, hoping to keep the day from blowing up. But Gary snapped back. "You don't decide how Radar feels." That was it. Alan's eyes went cold. He didn't raise his voice, didn't swear. He just said in this icy tone, "We're trying to work, Gary." The silence after that, you could feel it echo. From that moment on, something invisible settled between them, an emotional wall neither could tear down. Gary started taking every small note like it was a personal attack, and Alan, tired of walking on eggshells, began avoiding small talk altogether. They could stand inches apart during close-ups and not exchange a single word once the cameras stopped rolling. The tension was so thick that even crew members whispered about it when they left set. By season 7, that tension bled onto the screen. During one simple tent exchange, Gary refused to make eye contact with Alan through the entire first take. The director of photography asked for a reset. Same thing on the second take. Alan didn't scold him, didn't even sigh. He just quietly repositioned himself and tried again. But everyone watching knew exactly what it meant. Gary didn't want to share that emotional space anymore, not even for the sake of the show. What made their feud so heartbreaking was how quiet it was. There were no screaming matches, no public meltdowns, just a deep, heavy silence that said more than any argument ever could. Crew members later admitted that the quiet tension between them was worse than watching a full-blown fight. At cast parties or press events, they kept it professional. Smiles for the cameras, handshakes for the crowd. But behind those polite moments, the bond everyone thought was real had completely faded. And yet, despite all that behind-the-scenes chaos, Gary Burghoff still walked away from MASH with something untouchable. Even though he clashed with 3 of the show's biggest names, Gary left his mark in a way none of them could erase. Radar O'Reilly became the beating heart of the entire series. The innocence, the shaky voice, the teddy bear clutched tight. It all became legendary. Fans didn't see the bitterness, the tension, or the awkward silences. They only saw love, honesty, and pure heart on screen. No matter what happened backstage, the chair throwing, the cold stares, or the icy rehearsals, none of it mattered in the end. When people talk about MASH decades later, they don't mention the feuds. They remember Radar, the kindness, the warmth, and the soul that Gary poured into every scene. His performance became timeless, outliving every grudge and every rumor that haunted those years. Gary Burghoff's journey on MASH was messy, emotional, and unforgettable, but his legacy still shines brighter than the drama ever did. So what do you think? Was Gary misunderstood, or were those clashes bound to happen? Drop your thoughts in the comments, hit that like button, and make sure to subscribe for more untold Hollywood stories. See you in the next one.